Okay, it's recording.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Kwame Afray. I'm the Land Use Chair for Community Board 17. Today's a little late with the Today's October 3rd, and I called the land use meeting for October 3rd to order. Greetings, everybody. Seeing a lot more people here from other than last month. We'll be reviewing some new things, but just a quick overview. The Shirley Chisholm Museum's exterior facade is up. A lot of internal portions are being constructed on now, more of the internal walls, but if you were to drive by it, you'll see the external facade and the look of what the actual recreation center looks like. Internally, they're working on internal walls, communications, electrical, plumbing, all the things that would happen on a standard renovation. That's happening now with that project. Other than that, we'll get into the new report. Some new information was given to me by the DCP regarding industrial areas. It reads as follows. As per the local law 172-2023, the Department of City Planning, in collaboration with the Small Business Services, which we know as the SBS, and the Economic Development Corporation, which is the EDC, is developing in New York City in the industrial development strategic plan. That plan will examine industrial areas across the city, including ours, in Community District 17. The project's aim is to support the industrial sector. Like they gathered data on business. Ms. James, could you mute yourself? Thanks. The project aims to support industrial sector by collecting data on businesses, economic conditions, and land use alongside making policy recommendations. There is a survey that's associated with this, which we'll be distributing probably tomorrow. The components of that survey include the industrial businesses and the stakeholders in the neighborhood, obviously we're the stakeholders, research on land use and economic trends and infrastructure, recommendations for government support, incentives, and land use tools, and the identification of quote unquote primary industrial areas for industrial use. The idea is to try to bring back some sort of manufacturing to the inner cities or utilize the current industrial areas in our cities to produce more of the textile stuff that hasn't been happening in recent times. The final plan will be completed by December of next year with updates every 8 years. There is no provisional information out at this time. It's just the beginning of it, but as the information comes in, I share, right? I'm gonna shift and share my screen. To speak about the next task, which is the City of Yes Opportunity, the technical memorandum that came out. Should be in your inboxes if you don't have it. But I'll review the information just so we understand what this is about. The City of Yes Housing Opportunity, TM, which I'm going to try to do it just to take some words out of it, and analyzes the potential impacts of the modifications to the City of Yes plan, right? The HO proposal that we reviewed last year that we took the survey for didn't really get much positive feedback. So the outcome is most of the community boards and most of the stakeholders that had an input on it didn't really agree with some of the things. So now they're trying to bring it back or change some things in the plan to try to get it to have more positive feedback. One of the two items that they're trying to do is remove the sunset provision for allowing offsite bonus generation for affordable housing units in our 10 districts. This is basically trying to give more floor area ratios to specific things within the plan to try to make it more sense. The other one is limiting campus input proposal to exclude public housing projects subject to Section 18 of the U.S. Housing Act, which is probably a conflict which they found that happened inside. The modifications are expected to result in slightly fewer housing units, but will not cause any new significant environmental impacts, according to their environmental impacts statement. That's based off of a study that was taken. More or less, they're trying to make the plan more pleasing overall, I guess, maybe not at our level, but potentially at the city council level to try to get the plan to pass more marginal, more than just the marginal way, because right now it doesn't seem to be having a positive impact. So they're reviewing it, and I'm pretty sure these modifications will continue to come in as they gather this information, distribute it accordingly, and we get some information as we get it. We do. I don't really feel like there's a lot of information here to vote on, but the information was given to us now. We can review it, or I could give you the month to review it, and we could come back with an action plan or some sort of statement based on our standings. Once we have the information and we can process it properly and not in such a shortened period of time. The next thing I'm going to go on to is these. If anyone's noticed these in the neighborhoods, these are flood sensors, right? They're gathering data in floods in various areas throughout the city. And there are several locations that are actually installed in our district. I'm just going to name a few. On the corner of Church Avenue and 53rd Street, Clarendon Road and 56th Street, East 45th and Rutland Road. We have East 57th and Snyder, Farragut Road and Brooklyn Avenue, Farragut Road and Rogers Avenue, Troy Ave and Farragut Road, Utica Avenue and Rutland Road, and Whitty Lane, which is probably one of the things that, they've had a history of flooding issues there. The purpose of these things is to monitor and manage the street flood levels. It's basically gathering data. Right, there's a website associated with it. It's powered via a solar panel, and it sends signaler radio data over to some gatherer, which is going to be able to aggregate the complaints that we've been getting, or we've been sending them for over the past years, to help policymakers and emergency response teams be able to analyze the data more critically and hopefully have a more positive response to the complaint that we have and with actual some infrastructural changes. So it's a step in the right direction. I did just notice it haphazardly, just driving, and I pulled over to find out what it was. And as I find out the information, I share like anything else. The next thing, and the final thing, in our regular neighborhood observations, I thank Reed DePosta for sharing this information via the WhatsApp group chat. 2720 Church Avenue, which is adjacent to a property that our committee member, Adele Bennett, has been, reminding us constantly that there's a lot of activity going on over there. We know it as the Associated Supermarket, which is adjacent to the Clean Right. They just revealed some renderings, which I'm going to share now. They are building a 17-unit or a 17-story mixed-use development, 2720 Church Avenue. The building is going to include 56 rental units, commercial spaces, and parking. Construction is set to begin soon, and apparently all of the permits are approved for this building, right? It's massive. It's an eyesore. It's in the neighborhood. It's going to stand out quite critically in the neighborhood where it is. It does have dual entrances because the lot itself has openings on Erasmus and Church Avenue. And the reason that this was able to happen was that the lot itself extended from Church Avenue to Erasmus Street. It's lot 14, if anyone wants to look it up, on block 5150. The zoning is dual zoned, it's R6 and C13. And that combination allowed this building to go up without a ULURP process. So it seems to be happening. Pushback will seem to be limited at this time, but the renderings are here, and it's been a decent source in the past. They've been quite critical, quite accurate in the past. There's an average of unit sizes, et cetera, but this is what's to be expected to be at that location, which will be towering over everything else adjacent. Doesn't appear like any of the other buildings had that loophole, so to speak. I don't believe any of the other lots did extend through the blocks, quite such as this one did. But it's a thing, and as the news come in, we speak on it. I'm going to stop broadcasting and open the floor to any questions for anything that you may have heard. You guys see me? See your hand raised. Excellent. We'll get the chat up.
There's some questions.
Right.
Alexandra,
Oh,
you're recognized.
Could you clarify a little bit how exactly this building, what made it exempt from the ULURP
Acceptable?
process? Yeah, was it just the fact that it was on 2 blocks? I used to live like 1 block away from this. I'm very curious. My other question is, well, the reason I'm very, very concerned about the ULURP process is it replaced a grocery store, I believe. And there aren't too many large grocery stores around. So yeah, but I'm mainly curious about what exempted them from that rule.
All right, just give me a second. I'm going to try to pull it up so that it's much easier to explain with a visual, right? There you have it. I'm going to share my screen again. Give me a second. Let me know when you can see. Sure if you
We can see it.
Okay. All right. Let's just go over to here. This is the Zola website, New York City Planning, right? It's showing you the specific block, right? So as you see on this particular block between Lloyd Street and Rogers, you see that block 14 or lot 14, how it extends from Church Avenue all the way to Erasmus Street, and how the other lots are more scattered and broken up, right? All right, so the zoning on your right side is saying that this lot at the top, you see how it says R6 C13? It's an R6 on the Erasmus Street side and a C13 on the Church Avenue side, right? But because it's going from end to end, they can use either one to determine what the FAR distribution is going to be. So you have a total lot area of 14,000 square feet, or almost 15. See it? It says 14,865, right? If you was to go to an R6, and in its explanation over here, typically the floor area ratio can range from 0.75 to 2.43. If you go on the higher range, right, of the 2.43, I'm not going to get into the math real quick. They can basically build 2.5 times that square footage, which can't fit inside of that ratio. So it allows them to go up.
Okay, very interesting. Thank you. And thank you for the visual. That's very helpful.
Right. So what you saw was a grocery store. This speaks to the zoning issues that we've been having, right? That had an underutilized FAR that was basically a one level. It utilized the commercial side, which is the Church Avenue side, which was our grocery store. And I think the Clean Right, actually. It might have been both. And what it did is it kept it at one level, and it used the Erasmus Street side for deliveries and stuff like that. But it was a unique lot that was preyed upon. And actually the closing of the grocery store was either contributed by COVID or by an offer, which we actually looked up. It was like they bought the property for 2.2 million around COVID time, around May. So it could have been just a situation of a bad situation, or maybe it was an owner trying to get out of a bad situation that was taken advantage of. And unfortunately, or fortunately for the developer, unfortunately for the community, you have a 17-story tower with nothing that could be contextually placed next to it. All right, Ms. Viglianti.
I'm not sure if my question was the grocery store a whole lot, or were those 2 lots that were purchased by whoever owns it now? Like, was the commercial side and then the other side, was that actually 2 different lots that were purchased? That was one lot?
I think it was one lot. I think the facing Church Avenue side was what we saw it as a grocery store, which had enough square footage for you and anybody else to go in and shop. But the back end side was used for storage, whether they were chopping or butchering animals or storing whatever would be needed for deliveries.
Okay.
The tractor trailers used to come through the back.
Yeah.
They couldn't come through the front on Church Avenue to block Church Avenue. So that lot,
Okay.
normally the tractor trailer will turn off of Rogers Avenue onto Erasmus Place, and they would either park in front or back into the lot to drop off the items. So basically,
Okay.
that's how
So
that's how
it was
common.
one business. It was always one
Yes,
business there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
one
Okay.
business, one lot.
Okay. Thanks.
Ms. Bennett?
Oh, yes. I noticed that they were doing, that's why I mentioned it to you the last couple of times.
Mhm.
What was going on over there. But I also heard something about the lots further down closer to the Nostrand side, the one they use as a flea market. That has the same issue. It goes from Church Avenue to the Erasmus side. And I heard they are planning to build on it. I'm not sure when, but they are.
You talking about the one that's in between Nostrand and Lloyd, the next block?
Yes.
I'm looking at the map. It's actually two different blocks. So they would need to
Mhm.
purchase quite a few. It's multiple lots, which is why,
Because you can walk. You go into that flea market, you go up from church.
oh yeah, I know the area you're speaking about. I'm just saying, at this time, it wouldn't be a one purchase. Sorry, I wanted to show this. It wouldn't be a one purchase. This is the block you're speaking of, right?
I know there was a house back there and they were trying to negotiate buying those homes.
So you're talking about the flea market that's on lot 33,
Yes.
that you could walk through lot 49. They would need to be able to purchase 33 and 49 and some of 43 really to extend something like what's happening over here.
I know they were trying because the houses back there, I spoke to the owner at the time, 2 years ago, and they were trying to they damaged several of the homes in order to buy them from the people.
There's been activity on Erasmus Street on the lots 57, 58, 56.
Yep, they bought them out. They damaged the homes and bought them out.
And across the street on 28th, I think there's actually a building there, but nothing as egregious as this particular situation.
Well, before you hear the news, they were damaging those homes. And I think there's one house left. I'm not sure if it's gone already.
They're probably slowly procuring, and we have the information.
Is there any way that we could put it to this or some form? Because it doesn't seem rather fair to the community. And that's a,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said, Ms. Bennett.
said it doesn't seem really fair to the community that they bypass the unit committee.
They didn't bypass the yellow committee; it's within their rights. I want to make that clear.
What I mean is having it added to the
I mean,
other against
yeah,
wishes.
yeah, that's the situation that we faced with the other property on Linden. That may have bypassed the Europe through some what you call it, but this is different. This was really just a lucky situation on their end, or somebody was really doing their due diligence to find a lot.
I mean, we gotta start doing something too.
We were speaking on the side, me and some other members about, I don't even think that the owner could have known that property could be transitioned into something so
I don't think they knew.
drastic, and kind of think he probably got cheated a little bit. But
Maybe.
the more you know.
What we don't know is what goes on. That's the problem.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
I saw another hand up. Was it Melanie?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, would you mind dropping the link to the Zola map in the chat?
Sure, absolutely.
Thanks.
You do need to know the address. That particular map is easier to find when you know the address. The address is 2720. You can't put in your address and kind of just go on the map and shift it over to particular neighborhoods. It's an excellent resource because it shows what it is and it has the links to the information that could better explain it. All right. Ms. Quashi?
Yes. Department of Buildings or anybody in the city, the architectural design,
Mhm.
don't they have a say in what they put up the way of the landscape of the city of how it's looking?
Technically, no. They only approve drawings that fall within the parameters of the rules. So if they were to build something that exceeded what was there, they wouldn't get Department of Buildings approval. If they decided to put a 34-story building there, they wouldn't get Department of Buildings approval to actually move forward. They wouldn't issue any permits for demo. They wouldn't give them any stamped drawings, which is required to move further into the project. So this is permitted, unfortunately. And they built it within, I believe, obviously they used whatever the maximum allotment of what they could do. They did that.
I'm just curious because with the city of Yes and, or every decaf or whoever it is, with what they're trying to do with the city, making it so laborious with architect, I would think somebody would care how a landscape looks.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has a particular taste, It doesn't,
Especially our bougie counterparts.
yeah, I mean, it
And
sticks
Brooklyn is
out.
supposed to be the new look of Manhattan.
It sticks out. I don't disagree.
Yeah.
I don't disagree that it sticks out, but
It's gonna stick out.
It's an architect's dream, you know what I mean? It's an architect's dream to design, whatever they deem modern or whatever it is. But it's not the city's, unless it would be in a historical district. It doesn't have the city's say of how the building looks.
Yeah.
There's a couple of ugly buildings in Manhattan too. Trust me.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It is. It's just a part of what it is. Unfortunately, I guess there's no way we could have known unless we were paying attention to every block and every scheme possibly, and there's no way we could have prevented it to know that this would happen. But all we could do is, which is what I tried to do, is review it and make sure that they were in the parameters, and they were. Again, this is what happens when people cash out in our neighborhoods. The situation for our current zoning is going to allow more. Excuse me. The current zoning is going to allow this and other things to happen more as people sell their properties. As people sell their properties, buildings are going to get higher. The city of Yes is going to allow for certain things to be built contextually through the town zoning centers and the transit zones. And now we have the industrial thing that's wrapping the bend. It seems like we're a melting pot for everything else in the city. We seem to be the melting pot for zoning as well. Seems like every single action in the city of Yes, in some way, unlike other neighborhoods, will affect Community Board 17 at this time. Sorry. Any other questions? I know it's a lot.
Yeah, I wrote a comment. Pardon me. This is Melanie.
Yeah, you can read it. You don't mind. Oh wait, I'll look up on the property developer. There seems to be yeah. I mean, sometimes we have to be leery about the entities that get put there. I'm not familiar with the name. I know it says it on the thing. Sometimes they open up under something else. They're not like a Clipper Equities, which, thank you. They're not like Clipper Equities, which owns Flatbush Gardens and owns the Bedford property, which is something I actually forgot, and I'm going to mention it now. The Sears tire shop that was on our side of the district is subject to the same thing, unfortunately. I did a neighborhood drive-by. We drove by a few properties that were there in the past that we had discussions on to see how far they were along the progress, and we drove by the Bedford, which is one of the two towers is up quite high at this time. But the tire shop is actually being developed now. It's probably about 6 or 8 stories up, and it's subject to the same thing. It seems like They don't require a yellow. I have to do more research on it though. But I didn't think that they would be able to build something like that at the time. But that property and the property adjacent triggered something that allowed them to build something that's probably going to be probably not as high as the towers across the street, but it is going to be residential over there. I don't know if anybody's been over there or seen that.
Arnie, what was the trigger?
It's the combination of multiple lots, and if they get it surveyed or they combine lots, because you could do things inside of the city where you can buy lots, you could separate lots, because a lot of properties not quite in our neighborhood like that, but in other neighborhoods, like in the outskirts, like in the Erskine, over there by Spring Creek, there's a lot of properties that have two lots on it. You could separate them, and in some cases you can combine them. When you can combine them, I believe that the zoning mechanism for the whatever's the highest takes precedent. So if you can combine two lots, which I'm not saying that this happened here, if you have the ability to combine two lots, you can also increase your FAR by putting the two lots together. If the two lots adjacent have two different types of zoning, you may be able to, or there might be some provision there that make you choose the one with the higher one, which will allow you to be able to build up higher than not more, right? The Sears lot, like we know it, it's Sears lot, but it was mostly the parking apparatus.
Yes, the auto lot.
Store, and then they had like where the cars would park.
There was a space in front and a space behind. But behind the one in the back, there were people's backyards.
Those are people's backyards, yep. Which we got complaints about when they started greenboarding the properties.
Maybe we should talk to them.
Yeah, the parking situation over there, as high as they're going, should be a requirement. I don't know, honestly, Ms. Wilkerson. I have to do some more research on that. That was just a neighborhood drive. The same neighborhood drive which found the flood sensors discovered this, and it was actually a property on 45th, what is it, between Clarendon and Avenue D, which was like an older modular property. That was they came before us and they were going to be building the building off site and doing it there. I didn't get quite to reach that one, but there's a couple of things that I have to review. I will say that volume wise, in comparison to years prior, probably because of the tax abatement, I'm not seeing the frequency of the build, but then you get something like 2720, which kind of like, it's like all of those buildings that could have been built in one. It happens. Any other questions pertaining to the topics? Comments? Right. Meeting minutes. Okay. See quorum here for the meeting minutes. I'm going to skip to unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business? Any things people have seen? Question: has anybody seen the flood sensors I've put up? Anybody notice them?
Yes, I did. I didn't know what it was at the time.
Yeah, same.
But I definitely didn't know what it was. Now I do. My question is, except for Woody Lane, there aren't too many flood zones in this district, are there?
There's been some talk on Clarendon Road in the 40s. There's been there's areas where there's concentrated flooding. I'm not sure how they map the locations for the actual sensors. There's a map for that too, actually. When you zoom out, it kind of seems like they're sporadically placed, but I can't see them doing that type of study and not being able to aggregate data to place them in a more meaningful location. I have to assume it was done with some type of data, the correct data, in order to, and it's a ongoing thing. I guess as it rains, it's delivering data, and that data gets set to a map, which I'm going to share in the chat also.
Do any other community boards have this? Like in the
Oh.
18 in Canarsie?
Oh, yeah.
Have
Yeah,
it?
yeah. As a matter of fact, maybe I should share the map, just so you have an idea that it is a citywide initiative to surround. Just give me a second. Be able to, the visuals help. So this is like an oblong view. Sorry, more sharing than I'm used to. I'm trying to do it more. So, keep it all in the brain. What we got? Here. Here's your map of the city as a whole, and this is us zooming in to us about here. I shared the link in the app, and how the data is actually there's information on here. They tell you what they're doing with the data. They tell you how they're, you know, how they're going to utilize it, what they're going to utilize it for. And it's basically these measurements are going to get taken as rainfall happens, which we should be seeing some rainfall now with the incoming storm. And I'm going to be watching this to see how it's recorded. You know, where it's placed, it's not typically historically where I've been getting complaints in the community board. But I'm hoping, with the exception of Whitty Lane, but you know, this is also in the and it's actually a means that it says that you could actually submit a flood report, which I'm noticing now. So even if there isn't a flood, particularly in the areas where they're registering, you could actually, looks like you could send a photo, which I've gotten multiple of in the past. What they're going to do with the data, from my understanding, is to hopefully build an action plan to help solve it and resolve it. But zooming out, it's across the city.
To me, it looks like they put it in areas that are not really flood zones to see if that area will flood possibly.
Yeah, like you would think there would be more in the Mill Basin, Bergen Beach area.
That's correct.
You would think so, but
They know that is a given. Out there, anywhere around East 80th, they can all see all that's a flood zone.
but I cannot say that they're finished. I cannot say that they're finished because I have the dates from when the things were being installed in our neighborhood. The earliest one was installed on May 5th, May 24th. All the other ones, the majority of the rest were installed on August 15th. The last one was installed on August 23rd. So they very well could still be installing them everywhere. This doesn't mean that it's the final of what we're seeing. I did note that over here, it is mentioning a number. It's the first time I ever seen a number other than 0.
What I was going to tell you is, like I said, we really know because it has an underground street. It's always set.
Fatima.
I just have a question.
Ms. Smart, could you mute yourself, Ms. Smart? Thank you. Fatima, you acknowledge?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. But yeah, I just have a question just regarding them, like when they go and they put these things inside the neighborhood, is there any place that we can go to see like what they're going to be installing in our neighborhoods before we just drive down the street and see them?
I wasn't familiar with the study to know that. I don't really think that they would have to. I'm not sure if there's an information portal where you could actually see when these things are happening. It was news to me. I know the conversation was started with Allison, and you know, in prior dates, she was surprised that they were installing them too. When I saw them, I actually saw them the night of the last general board meeting. That day is when I saw the first one. No, I'm not really sure if there's an information portal on these particular studies of where you could see it. But they are mounted on street signs. Not truly intrusive, I don't think, but I'm not really sure how long the study is going to last too. It's not really clear on that either. Hopefully that answered your question. Sorry. Ms. Vigilanti?
Yeah, I think the reason that they may not be installing them in places like Mill Basin and over in those areas is because they're already designated as flood zones. So they don't really need to do the survey there. They're doing it in areas where we haven't been considered flood zones, and maybe they want to try to make us part of the flood zone. And then, that brings up all kinds of questions like, how does that, impact our insurance, a homeowner's insurance, and, what does it really mean? And my question is, what are they actually doing? Are they collecting water?
Mm-mm.
Like, what's data? What are they doing? Just collecting the amount of water and then measuring the water?
Yeah, they're
Like,
measuring
do
the
you
height.
know?
They're measuring the height of the water in a particular area. It's using
Okay,
like
so they're actually
yeah,
collecting water,
they're not
or they're
collecting.
just measurement down in the.
They're using like let's call it like probably like a LiDAR to measure the floor. And I guess as the rainwaters rise, they're measuring how many inches of water is being or is being
Dropped,
driven to
right,
a
yeah.
particular area, right? So like they're by most likely catch basins, right? I didn't really observe the areas like that, but they're probably seeing if you have 8 inches of water where you know that the curb is only 6, that data would tell them that it's flooding in that area, right?
Yeah.
Ms. James? Ms. James?
Are you asking? My hand wasn't raised, was it?
It was.
Oh, my apologies.
Ms. Quashi?
Now you said there's one on Farragut and Troy.
According to this list, Troy and Farragut Road, Troy Avenue,
Oh.
Farragut Road.
Okay, I'm gonna take a look around tomorrow.
Yeah, it should be mounted to like a street sign, something that would say the hours when, the mechanical booms would come around and sweep.
Okay, I'll take a look.
Something like that. And I showed a picture. I don't know, did you see the picture? of What it looked
No,
like?
because my internet went out. I had to sign back in.
In the meantime, is there any other questions? I'll show you what a visual. I wish I could just put it in the chat, but it's not that
Oh,
WebEx
no,
thing.
I know what it looks like. Oh, I
You
know
know
what
what it looks like? Okay.
Yes, I know what it looks like. I was at the meeting.
All right, good. Any other questions? Unfinished business?
Did you hear, yes, I'm sorry, Kwame. Did you hear anything about the property over on East 98th Street?
I did not.
Okay, so it's still nothing, still no go, nothing moving.
Yeah, no movement or information from Mr. Goldstein and his associates pertaining to that property. More than likely, he's waiting for the City of Yes initiatives to get passed. Probably will change something. It may not allow him to build what he actually proposed to us, but maybe opening some avenues for him to change his design in some way. There hasn't been any dialogue between the team and the office at this time.
Okay.
All right. All right. Unfinished business. Okay. Moving on to new business. I know I flooded the report with a lot of new business. Outside of that, is there any other new business? I'll bring up that the City of Yes was reviewed on September 25th, which is what I think drove the technical memorandum that went out. Again, can anybody confirm, or can everyone just confirm to me that they received that? In your time, just review it. If you have any questions, please get it to me so I can get it to our representative. I'm not really sure. I'm pretty sure that they're not going to be holding another vote for it. They haven't done that in the past when these things have been adjusted, right? The adjustments typically go to the council people, and then the council people make the decision based off of the adjustments, I guess, from their respective stakeholders. And that's how it's happened in the past. But if you have any additional questions or comments based on what I'm hoping is one of many adjustments, you could get that to me and I could get it to our representatives to get an answer, should I not be able to answer it myself. Ms. Viglianti, I didn't see the order of the hands. Ms. Viglianti?
Yeah, I tried to read that memorandum and, it's pretty dense and it really doesn't say anything.
Correct.
So I don't know what I don't even know what we're supposed to do with it.
Really,
Doesn't
just,
really give you any specific information.
yeah, they're
It
just,
just says the impact, it says that the modification doesn't have any, there's no significant difference between the impact of what was before and what with the modification. There's no impact, but it doesn't really say what the modifications are. It's very like technical and I don't really understand it. And it seems to be just for high density areas. That's what it seems to me. I'm not clear what it says.
anybody else have the same sentiment pertaining to it? Or did anybody not get through it?
Just Fatima, I had the same issue as well.
Let's see if we can get someone here to better explain it. And they're at liberty, I mean, at a minimum, they should be able to do that. I'll reach out to Ms. Gusenfeld, see if I could get her to come and have her break it down. I see what it says. I can understand conceptually how it could be confusing because it's not really saying much. Really saying only two things. Outside of this, though, commentary that I've been hearing is that they're trying to, take out the parking thing that we had an issue with, the mandate or the lack thereof. They're trying to remove that from the said provision. And again, our comments and our things should be in their possession. And the other community boards, all, I believe, wholeheartedly didn't agree with it. So I'm surprised not to see that removed in this memorandum. Very surprised. Ms. Quashi? I don't know if that's an old hand, new hand?
No. Another concern I have is that our borders for other community boards are being inundated with homeless shelters. So you can have like Community Board 18, like we have their homeless shelter on the edge of our on our side of the community board, which is technically their community board, but it's really 17's. And so I don't know who's watching our back doors and our borders from 17-9, who likes to dump things on our side of the fence. And so I'm concerned, like we have the new hospital coming on Clarendon Road that we don't know anything about. That's a big secret. It's kind of like a secret because they made the announcement in June that it was coming, but we don't have an address for it. And so our senior center is right there on Clarendon Road, and we don't know the address. We don't know anything about it. But it's going to be too late by the time something happens.
You're talking about you're talking about the Vital Brooklyn? Speaking on Vital Brooklyn, the developments that are happening there.
Yes, that's just one of many.
Yeah, there's other things that are currently being built now from Monodoc on the Utica Avenue strip that is all senior housing or some variant of it. It was all state funded. Again, know your look. So I'll follow up on Vital Brooklyn. It has been quiet. It's been very quiet for a while. As far as the other ones, we know that the one on 14 is right by the Clipper Equities property. I'm curious about the one you're saying that's in 18. You know a location for that? That's the one that's on Foster, no? But that's always been there. Wasn't there like a homeless?
Yeah, that one's been there. But I'm saying that by the time we find out about it, it's too late. But when I see it on the news in other communities, they have a say-so before it's even established.
At this time, the only form of that type of housing or something from something relatively close to it was the one on Clarendon Road next to the church. That's been ongoing for a while. I think it was only supposed to have 11 beds. Outside of that, nothing is off my radar as far as any other type of homeless shelters, except for, like you're saying, on the borders. A lot of it is on the borders.
Right, and I'm hearing rumors up there by where the old Social Security building is up on Nostrand Avenue. I'm hearing murmurings that they're putting a housing unit there for the homeless people. It's going to be an apartment building for homeless people. So I don't know if it's rumors or it's going to be or it's true, but that across where the old Social Security building is, they have a big giant building there, and I'm hearing that that building is going to be for the homeless.
Saying, you mean the building next to, across the street, the one that's going up there?
Yeah.
So the building across adjacent, the Social Security office is next door to the Sloan Kettering Center. That's next door to the Ace Hardware. You're talking about the building that's going up now. That's on the same block as the FedEx.
Yes.
All right.
That's the rumor I'm hearing coming out of the senior center at the Y.
I'll just, I mean, they don't have to, they should be able to disclose what's going to be there.
Yeah.
How it gets executed is what, but I'll look it up. You know,
Okay.
I'm in that area a lot, so I'll look that up. Ms. Martinez? Allison? She doesn't know she's on mute.
I didn't raise my hand.
Oh, no, but yeah, okay. Question, did you see the flood sensor?
Yes, I did. When my mother and I submitted locations to FloodNet to have them included in the next round of locations. So that's, I see in the summary, it mentioned not having a centralized source of information, but being part of FloodNet, which serves our area up until like Jamaica Bay even, is how you get to submit locations that make sense for installation of flood sensors.
Said, you know, that they discovered that there's 9 in our neighborhood outside of the one we spoke about. There's 8 others.
Yeah. So that's good.
Miss James?
Thank you. Last year, there was some opposition to their buildings that were being proposed on Clarkson Avenue, I think it is. It was led by somebody who lives in Long Island. Do you know if it's still ongoing or has that stopped or?
I don't think the Vital Brooklyn, I think the momentum behind it stopped. I think that the stopping of the hospital build or the closing of the hospital may have shifted their vision a little bit for how that was going to be. Nothing has come out forefrontly. I haven't gotten any news or any notices, but I don't see them letting that not happen, you know. Or if it is, there's going to be a revision of how it's going to happen. So
has opposition subsided, do you think?
I can't see any developer or any city agency that deployed that type of money just letting that go to the wayside. I'm trying to be realistic. I would hope so, but being realistic, I don't think that they would try to modify the plan, or they might be in the talks for it. Even from the person you're speaking of, I haven't heard anything from him, and he's been typically on top of these things. Again, I do have some concerns with the proposals that are out there, and if they're trying to modify to include or make changes because of certain things that happened to the original plan we all saw. But I don't really see them subsiding it. I can't see that being the true outcome. So I'm gonna have to look up and see where the momentum is behind Vital Brooklyn and anything adjacent. Really, I might need to reach out to 9 also, because they may actually be more privy to get that information versus us. Because again, it's on our border. There could have been some movement. I'm not sure if Chair Baptiste is still the chair over there, but I'm gonna reach out to him, or at least Dante in their office, and see where we are. There's like most things, when they're quiet, it's usually never good for us. Usually not. Adele?
Yes, I'd like to know, did you hear anything about that old Rite Aid, so Clarkson and Rockaway Parkway?
Clarkson?
Yeah, it's an entire block. It's bounded by Clarkson, Rockaway Parkway, Kings Highway. Used to be the old Rite Aid pharmacy.
Oh, the Rite Aids and the CVS's, not the CVS's, the Walgreens, I think.
Mhm.
The Rite Aids, what was the other one that closed? So all the Rite Aids in our neighborhood closed.
The Walgreens on Rockaway closed, it became a supermarket.
Yeah, the CVS's are still open. I mean, they're all closed. They're all being sold off. Or what you call it, a provisional. I think that's another area that maybe we could all collectively look and see what's permissible there, right? It could be another placement or another shift. You have to pay attention to the city of Yes when they're trying to convert commercial spaces into housing, and now we're lacking. You know, I'm not really sure how we could get a resource, because obviously I think there's a need. I think there's a need for those type of establishments in the neighborhood. It kind of hurts that one of our 24-hour ones, even myself, I have to use the one on Utica now just to get stuff. From before, we had something really close, and it seems like it's much more. It's not as many as there used to be, and it's not good at all. You know, I'm not sure what kind of action plan we could take or what we could bring to, but the problem is with these businesses that go upside down for whatever reason. Sometimes the real estate is their only valuable asset, and they'll sell it to the highest bidder. We should do some sort of research though on our area specifically, because there is just so many between that and the closing of the smoke shops. With the city of Yes proposals on par, that many things could happen. You know, many
So,
things could happen.
also, the area that was on Church Avenue, I see them doing some type of renovations. You know anything going on there? I believe it's on Brooklyn and Church.
Albany and Church.
I think it's Brooklyn and Church.
What you said? The Rite Aid?
Yeah, old building. They're like they're doing some type of painting, renovation, sprucing up. I don't know what they're going to put there.
I think it might be Albany. I haven't had a reason, honestly, since they closed it to drive over there. But I'll swing over there the next time to see what you're speaking of.
All right, thank you.
I'm 2 blocks from there, or a block away. I haven't seen any renovation. That's on Albany and on Church.
Yeah.
I saw them in there about maybe a couple of weeks ago. They were in there like they were painting, cleaning up. I mean, really cleaning.
Okay, yeah. Next time I take a look, because I take the bus right up.
Okay, thank you.
Ray, LaShawn?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, great. I don't mean to go backwards, but the building that's on Nostrand by, I guess, the FedEx, not too far up from the FedEx.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's going to be a shelter. That's what I was told.
Yeah.
I think first it's supposed to be maybe a hotel, but something changed. And when I asked, they said it's going to be a shelter.
We're talking about, and I just want to be clear, we're talking about the building on Nostrand Avenue I, on that corner, the one that's currently under construction now, or another building, Jason?
Wait, hold on.
Yes. That particular building is actually outside of our district as well. It speaks to what Ms. Bennett is saying. With everything.
Didn't they put the Ramada there? A Ramada Hotel on Nostrand I?
I thought that's what was, I'm not sure what's being built there.
Well, because I passed by, I passed by which I think it was by Avenue I, and they already have a sign that says Ramada Inn.
Okay,
So I don't know
because
the same building you're talking about.
No, last time I passed by, it was not too far from the FedEx, and whoever was working there was like, "Oh, it's going to be a shelter." So if it's going to be a Ramada Inn, that's great. So
Well, that's just a
Yeah,
cover. It's probably
yeah,
still going to be
yeah.
a shelter.
Took the words out of my mouth. It's not that it's not going to be what it's being proposed as. It's just at this time with the influx of migrants, it would typically be using a hotel other than its typical use case. You know, there are people or they are using hotels to house the migrants because of the housing and the influx. So
right.
there's that component of it. So maybe that the two ideas are being brought together is being built outright as a hotel, but it could be utilized as
Migrants.
a shelter, so to speak, to house
Yes.
migrants.
Because the one we put on Kings Island, Kwame,
Yes.
they had nothing but trouble. And it's on our border. And I spoke with Daniel from Fairview's office. He had went over there. Everything I saw confirmed. I told him nothing but trouble. The shootings over there. They had prostitution going on in the green space. They have sanitation come in and take the mattresses in between the shrubs.
Which
That's how bad it
location?
was.
Which location are we speaking of?
Hey, just on the other side of this vessel.
Sorry, you're breaking up, Miss.
The hotel. That's
Oh, the same
just-
hotel?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Nothing but trouble. Then they go into the mall. The Target is, when they arrested about 5 or 10 of them, they would go in there and steal.
Okay.
And I spoke with the sister also.
I haven't had much communication with the chair of what district would that be?
18. That's all right.
That's 18. That is 18. Yeah. It's like in
Yeah.
between. It's like
But the thing is, it's 1 block from us.
Yeah.
So at the border, it's on our border.
yeah, your assessment is not incorrect. It does seem like I think we would prefer that than it being in it, but it does seem like, unfortunately, that these properties are
Trouble rooms.
always on our borders. So far, at least the 3 that we know of.
Yes.
The two, including, I'm including this one until we, I get some information on it, and the one that we know by, the Sears Tower. That's on the King's Theater, behind King's Theater.
I hope it's a shelter or a hotel because hotels will go right to migrant vacancy.
Sorry, I was away from the chat. FYI, the property is being
It's not in our district, but it's on our border again. The hotel they built opposite King's Theater, that's also a migrant hotel now.
Sorry, I'm reading the chat. The old car wash. Oh. Can anybody speak to what they're using that property over there for? Utica Avenue? I'm seeing the comments. What are they using it after Labor Day?
They're still using it for the same thing. They're still playing music over there and doing whatever they're doing.
It's become like a club until it gets too
Yeah,
cold.
they're not supposed to be there. I don't know when it's going to get resolved.
Missed quite a bit in the chat. I read the city.
And in all honesty, they're adding to the dumping situation over there.
Not surprised. You have people in an unused area. It would just happen. You're lucky that there's no food trucks over there. I did mention it to Mr. Hill. I'll follow up with him. But I might reach out to Ms. Cunningham myself.
Mm.
They have to,
I'm sorry. We used to have a sergeant, 6'7". I'm not sure if he's still there anymore. His name was Skagman. He used to go over. We got sanitation traffic together to tow the vehicles and sanitation to pull the vehicles out with the big trucks and clean it up. But I don't know if he's still there. He had a big hand in it.
I caught a little bit of what you said, Ms. Bennett. I'm sorry. It sounds a little muffled.
I'm sorry. What I was going to say is, we had a sergeant, We used to be in the 6-7. She would get together and coordinate sanitation, traffic for the tow trucks, PD, to pull vehicles out, to clean up the whole area. But PD does have a large part to do with it. You just have to have somebody coordinate it.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it up in the executive meeting. And I have to, like we always do annually, it seems, we're gonna have to try to get everybody together, maybe the council person, to do the clean. It's just the frequency of it. It seems like we concentrate and we do it in one swoop, and then over time, once it gets beyond what a mechanical broom can do, because it's a commercial area, they're not required to pick up trash there, but it becomes a dumping ground. And it's
Yes.
I mean, it would just be better if the business was in operation or a business was in operation there, but I agree with Ms. Viglianti that it's probably being held off, or it's being purchased, or being
I think the state's
capped
purchasing it.
for the IBX.
Yes.
Not for the IBX directly, but because it's going to be adjacent to the IBX, is going to be quite valuable. And the person or the landlord should be responsible, but historically, like the houses on Lenox that we reviewed a year and a half ago, when they're holding the property for another plan, they'll pay whatever fine, they'll do whatever is necessary to just skate until it's time for them to execute what they're willing to execute. You know, the issue is it's not being monitored enough. It's because of where it is.
Honestly, I think I'm not going to blame sanitation because I do see them out there quite frequently. They could never keep up with the amount of garbage and the type. But I will say that I think they need to actually do some surveillance overnight and actually ticket the people and be in their cars there, because it's a waste of funds to constantly be there, cleaning up all the time, when if they actually would do the enforcement piece and ticket the people and do overnight surveillance, they'd probably be able to stop the people, because the sign saying that there are cameras there is not enough.
Yeah, I thought there were cameras there. Are you saying that they're not?
I don't know if they're really cameras there,
Yeah.
because they have that stupid rule that they have to physically be there seeing the person dump before they can do anything about it, and not rely on cameras, then they need to actually be there at night undercover, or whatever it is that they do to actually ticket the people while they're doing it.
Allison, you mean that they can't film them doing it? They actually have to be there. It can't be on
They
tape.
have to watch them do it. Like,
It's
it
funny
can't
because
be,
it's funny how the
give
city
them a video, which is
arbitrarily
stupid.
makes these rules. Because when you're driving, you can get a ticket in the mail from a county.
Yes. Yep.
But they can't
It's
give you
very
a
stupid.
ticket. It
No.
is ridiculous.
If there's a video, a clear video of them, yes.
No, because I've seen video footage from that location. That's why that component of it is a little agitating, because I've seen pictures. I was sent pictures from enforcement agents of them ticketing, or they saying that they ticketed. So that, according to what I'm hearing, they must have followed the footage, pulled the vehicle over. The problem is that it's known that that's a dumping ground, right? It's not just one agitator. It's anybody that's going to collect garbage from any home or whatever the case may be that doesn't want to bring it to the dump.
Anything.
They're charging people to haul away trash, and they're going to that location. It's known as the community place to, get away with it. And it's the frequency of it is just known. It would be much better. I don't know, in the short term, we know what we could do. We know we could contact the people. They'll do their little, the song and dance. We'll get it cleaned up, sparkly nice, and then within a few weeks, it'll be back to where it was.
Yeah. That's why it's not a long-term solution, and that's what's been going on for years, is them DSNY coming out there with their trucks and cleaning. But years ago, we had proposed to the council member that a solution could be that they need to put a law putting a 1% fee on all of the construction projects in the city, and use that fund to pay for that work, because it's mostly construction garbage that people in that industry are not paying to have properly disposed of. And then our communities get littered with this, and then you're wasting taxpayer money for having sanitation do what private industry should be taken care of as part of their cost of doing business. So that's really what's going to take it until, and you can have that as a punishment for all of the developers and the construction people until they get a hold of their own industry and curb the nonsense with the disposal. And that's just how it has to be.
It's definitely effective.
Yeah, it's not only the construction people, construction that dump stuff there. The auto body places across the street, they all dump stuff there. They just walk across the street and they dump oil, grease from cans of grease. So it's coming right from across the street.
It's the
That becomes an EPA issue then.
it's an effect that happens when people see something happening. Everyone's gonna follow. It needs to be
And the
punished.
problem, it's kind of like a no man's land because the city doesn't want to be responsible for it, but the state doesn't either, even though the state, basically they're the ones who own the railroad that's there and all of that. But nobody wants to actually be technically held responsible for that area. And part of it is not having proper sidewalks or anything there, so it's not usable.
A lot of the
Maybe we should get some, the news there or some news channel and get some attention on it. Embarrass the city, maybe.
I don't think these homeowners care.
I don't know.
Been paying attention to what's going on in the city lately. They don't seem to be
No, that's true. They don't care about anything.
What I say is I went over there about maybe 2 years ago, and I went to take pictures. And the guy come running up 51st Street. I didn't know what I was doing. I said, I'm taking pictures of these busted up all cars. He tells me those are his cars. I said, really? And said, why aren't they down there in your business? So nobody cares.
It's just an enforcement thing. The punishment needs to be followed, and obviously somebody could just dump a car and say it's not theirs at the time of the ticket. There's no plates, there's no registration. It's a cycle. And I mean, honestly, we know when it's going to end. It's going to end when the IBX gets there.
But the plates are
the frequency of the area has more traffic. That's when it's going to be addressed because they're not going to want their spigot span new station looking like a trash heap, But until then, we do need to create something because it's a constant hindrance on top of someone misusing the property. At least the open areas of the property. It does have a vacate order that was confirmed by Detective Skinner the last time I spoke with him. But I'm not sure what's going on with the use and who gave permission. I honestly think it's one of those situations where
well, they were not
somebody,
really. They were paying
somebody
rent.
who wasn't authorized. Somebody who wasn't authorized gave permission for them to use
they
it.
were,
And use it.
And they were paying rent to. I know this because from powers that be and different people have been talking about it. Even Chair Daley was talking about it, that they were paying rent to someone who didn't have the authority to collect rent, but said, "Go ahead, you can use this space. Pay me the rent." I don't know who that person is. What?
Squatters.
No, I don't know. It wasn't the squatters who were collecting the rent. It was somebody else. I don't know who it was.
The proprietors.
And they were told,
agreement.
my neighbor, let me just say one thing. My neighbor went there to tell them to lower the noise one night. And my neighbor was told that the people in there told her that they had permission to be there and it was given to them by the community board.
Okay. I keep hearing this. So I don't know who that person is.
And then they told her that they were going to call the cops on her because she was harassing them.
I wish she did because I don't know.
No, they were going to call the cops on my neighbor.
I wish they did because I want to know. I want to know who they agreed with and who they. Somebody's gonna have to go and communicate with to see who made this arrangement. They keep saying that, but that might just be something somebody was told to say.
That's right.
Well, that came down from the councilwoman's office.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but very vaguely, they don't know. They're not giving me names. I can't say who it is, but
You gotta get a
Daniel
name.
told me that from Councilman Lewis's office, Councilwoman Lewis's office.
Yeah, I keep hearing that, but that's, it's a name situation,
That's right.
Mhm.
You got to get the name.
Yeah, we gotta figure this out. Seems like,
Because if
something
there's
going on.
a
Somebody's getting paid.
that's right. If there's a vacate order, that's it.
Vacate orders for inside of the property though, which is not being utilized to my understanding. This is for the outdoor area, right?
Yeah, but they built a structure that connects to the building. So there's in the back, so they built like a shack that's attached to the building. So they're really in the building and in the shack. And there's an antenna sticking out of it. So somebody's living in there also.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You gotta go.
Follow up. I got a list of things. Anything else? I don't see anything in the questions.
Well, interestingly enough, I think the Brocky property is back on the market again,
Property of this?
across the street from the car wash, where they also have now started to have parties by the restaurant and lounge. That's back on the market, which is most likely where the train station would be.
Somebody's actively probably pursuing that area. We'll try to see if it's connected in some way to one person or something like that. I do need to look at some cell data to see what's going on over there. I mean, we all know that the car wash has been closed for what, 6 years, 7 years, maybe longer.
Oh, more than that. More
Yeah.
than that.
Like about 10.
Yeah, maybe 10 more. It could even be more than that.
Yeah.
And since the building burned down originally, if that means vacate, it's probably vacate the premises. Period.
Just reviewing the chat. Yeah, DSNY police, they got a police squad, but I'm not sure how they would actually be utilizing that particular area. It's like that gray area that Allison was speaking of. That particular area is just a nuisance trap, really. You have an unoccupied business, you have a known place to stake it out. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. But I don't know if those particular officers are, look it up, but I don't think those particular officers are assigned to the districts. They have like a unit force, and I'm not sure what they enforce. But sanitation does have police. See anything else? Any other new business?
We'd have to get the sheriff's office involved.
The sheriff.
Yep.
Sheriff and the marshals don't really move without having a lot of paperwork to back them, but I see what options are there. I mean, the long-term solution is.
Can I ask you something? Do you have a copy of that vacate order?
I can pull it up and get it to you if you need it.
Because a friend of mine's a sheriff. I'll give it to him. I'll let him know.
Vacate order will be issued by the city. Subsequently,
The one that removes you.
Subsequently, somebody would need to then enforce, which I don't know who that person would be.
Sure.
The marshal services don't come out for free. So like their enforcement would need to be paid. And someone would need to come out and, I mean, when they're trying to like.
Not the marshal.
Take possession.
Yeah, sheriff will come and remove you from the property. There's a vacate order.
I gotta look at that. Oh. Or you might be right. You might be right. I might be conflating two different things, but you might be right.
But the DOB doesn't have their own enforcement unit?
Not a body, no. Their enforcement would be enforcing that nobody should live there. They would come and issue fines, but there's no enforcement body to remove Anybody that would be there, that would be probably the marshal's services and the sheriff's office. Like an eviction, you know? It'd be similar to that. But somebody would need to trigger them, issue the paperwork. You know, there's a proceeding that needs to happen, and then they would come. That's how it was done through the eviction process. Through a vacate process,
Well,
I'm not sure. I would have to.
would the police, I mean, we called the police a number of times on that place and they can't do anything. But can they then move that on to the sheriff's office?
It would need to be escalated by a party, and it's usually the owning party. It would usually need to be the person who owns the parcel to make that
Yeah,
action.
well, that person, nobody even knows who that person is or where that person is.
That's a part of
Supposedly at some point he was in jail. I don't, there's so many stories going around. But somebody does know who he is. So.
7 to 10
somebody
years
somewhere.
means something to me because that's past the redemption period for our city. So somebody's paying the taxes and somebody's paying the water. So if there's a mortgage, you understand?
Exactly.
Like,
So
it would have been up to auction already. So I have to look up. I have to look up what's going on there behind the scenes through paperwork. I'm gonna, give some of my time. I'll have something to report back. If not before the next meeting, you'll see something from me if I find anything suspicious. But yeah, 7 to 10 years. You would think it would be at auction if somebody wasn't upkeeping it. Chances are, as like we suspect, it's most likely a developer or somebody who's holding on to it for the future, project that they know is coming. I'll do some research and reach out to the normal Motley crew to try to get some attention to it at least before the winter comes, because it's going to get worse. Because then you'll have frozen garbage and then fresh garbage on top of it. So at least hit it by fall's end. Just try to get some attention over there. That's really all I could do. Sorry, I wish I could do more. And I'm going to ask, is there any other new business? Seeing none. I do want to ask, do you guys have any agendas that you want the community, the committee to take on in year's end? Do we have any ideas? If not, you could gather your ideas of any plans or any action plans for anything in particular, any particular projects you want to focus, if not a small group that we could all collectively bring ideas to. Do something before the fiscal calendar ends, Obviously, we touch many things. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of things we have to keep our eyes on. But I'm just putting it out there. If you do have any ideas, bring it up. See what we could put together, and let's team up and make something that can help anything that's going forward. Right. With that being said,
excuse me, I don't know how to raise my hand. This is Joan Erskine. It occurred to me earlier talking about the building going up, our first topic of discussion. We've done two different separate proposals on rezoning. Did that get entirely subsumed into the city of Yes, or?
I'm not sure exactly what a rezoning thing is. The last that I understood, we had a proposal on the table. It had been modified again. It is unfortunately the timing of it and the placement of it is not being subsumed, but it's just the two things were happening at the same time, right? The momentum behind it, the conversations behind it have dwindled. I haven't really seen much going on with it. I do need to communicate with whoever has that information, because I don't really have the information of where we are in that process. I know we weren't like at a standstill, but we did need to make some mods and some concessions. It needed to be brought back for review. And in the process of all of that, the city started saying yes to everything,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty sure it'll be affected in some way. I am hearing some things that I can't speak on, but that possibly may bring some positive things to that. but I'm waiting to see how these memorandums get developed and how many more modifications come to the HO. There might be a pathway to get us something there. That's all I can really say, because I don't want to speak something that may not be true.
Okay, thank you. Because it does occur to me that these are complaints and concerns about overbuilding, that problem is addressed through appropriate zoning. And I know it's terribly difficult, but it seems that that's where we need to go if we want to curtail the overbuilding in the neighborhood.
It's tough because we're late to the party.
Yeah,
We've
no, I
been
know.
extremely late to the party, and the city has a plan. That plan includes us. It
Yeah,
includes the makeup of our neighborhood. It includes all of the things that make our neighborhood unique to us and why we love it. There's areas near the train zones, there's areas away from the train zones. There's everything in the city of Yes, like we spoke on earlier, I'll touch on it again. It seems to be like every component of it has a place in our neighborhood somewhere. We can envision, including I don't know if it's city of Yes, but including that local law 172 in the industrial areas. We have those too, you know. Our neighborhood is unique, and I'll look into it, try to get you as much information as I can.
thank you.
All right. Any other information? Any other new business? All right. Somebody move for adjournment?
Hi, it's Marguerite. I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Joan Erskine, I second the motion.
Motion has been moved and properly seconded. Land use committee meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. If you have any questions pertaining to the technical memorandum, send them to me. I'll get them over to our representative. And if you see anything, keep your eyes open. Let me know. There's a lot going on out there. Have a good night.